Well, it's Wednesday, which means it's time for Prime Minister's Questions, the weekly political showdown in the UK House of Commons. Today, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer faces off against the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, tackling the biggest issues of the week, including the Prime Minister saying the UK has to be war-ready and the winter fuel payment expected to go to more pensioners this year. Expect tough questions, fiery exchanges, and no shortage of political drama. Let's go live to Westminster for all the action.
They've done it by now. Scotland needs a change of direction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir John Cunliffe's interim report published yesterday laid out the fundamental changes that are needed for our water sector. This is felt no more acutely than in my constituency of Chichester. We have a harbour that's in an unfavourable declining condition, and sewage is blighting our tourism industry. But with water bills from Southern Water rising by 47% for my constituents, can the Prime Minister tell them when they can expect to see the real change that this government promised and our waterways cleaned up for good?
Well, can I share her anger and frustration at the broken water system that we inherited, with frankly appalling sewage, higher bills, and executives paying themselves huge bonuses. And the era of being rewarded for failure is over. We've launched a record 81 criminal investigations into law-breaking water companies in England, introduced the Water Act with prison sentences for polluting bosses and banning unfair bonuses, and we'll respond to the Independent Water Commission in full following the publication of the final report.
Deputy Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The proposed Hemel Health Campus, a partnership between the NHS and the Council, presents a perfect opportunity to deliver on Labour's commitment to neighbourhood-based care, bringing services closer to where people live, in facilities designed around their needs. It can also help to regenerate our town centre. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that it is essential that all stakeholders involved in the project are as ambitious as possible and work to deliver a community hospital that builds on the services currently available and reflects the evolving needs of our town?
Prime Minister. Well, can I pay tribute to how he's bringing people together to deliver better care in the community that meets the needs of his constituents. The proposals for the health campus will be open to public consultation. I'd urge the whole community to input into that to ensure the strongest investment case is put forward. I'm pleased that waiting lists in his local trust have fallen by a fifth since March 24 because of the investment that we put into the NHS, which of course was opposed by the parties opposite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past few months, I've been meeting with care providers in my constituency of Stratford-on-Avon who deliver essential and expert care to some of my most vulnerable constituents. But like so many small businesses, they are under huge financial pressures, and the hike in national insurance is yet another burden many can't afford. I welcome the government part U-turn on winter fuel payment cuts following pressure from these Liberal Democrat benches. So when will the Prime Minister offer relief to care providers and other small businesses and U-turn on the punitive hike to national insurance?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we announced £502 million to support local authorities to manage the changes in NICs. We put £3.7 billion in additional funding for social care, doubled the Disabilities Facilities Grant, and introducing the first ever fair pay agreement for professional carers, including minimum standards for pay. But I would just gently say to her, her party opposed the budget which provides the money for the funding. You can't keep asking for more spending and oppose a budget which raises the money.
Natalie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first constituent to reach out to me was a brave bowls-over mummy who had waited 4 years, 5 months from rape to prosecution, with 3 postponements and multiple suicide attempts. I will do everything I can to use this chamber to speak out for women that are being so badly let down. How will the Prime Minister support me to make sure that when these survivors, these formidable women across the country come forward, they will get justice and there will be space in our prisons for their perpetrators?
Prime Minister. Can I thank her for raising this case so powerfully and everything that she's doing on it. The case she's outlined is utterly shameful and for far too many victims are waiting too long for justice. Mr. Speaker, we're delivering a record number of sitting days, reviewing criminal courts to speed up the hearing of these cases and have as a mission to halve violence against women and girls. She talks about the prison system. The party opposite left the prison system on the brink of collapse, routinely operating at 99% capacity because in 14 long years they only added just 500 extra places. We will deliver 14,000 new prison places so the public are protected from these vile offenders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister told us during the general election that he is a socialist. What's been more surprising is to find out in the last couple of weeks that the leader of the Reform Party might be one too. As the Chancellor puts the spending review and locks it down, will the Prime Minister please remind her of Mrs. Thatcher's all too pertinent observation that the trouble is with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money to spend.
Was it Kwasi Kwarteng that he replaced? And now he stands there to give lectures on economic prudence. You couldn't script it. But Mr. Speaker, the difference between the Labour government and the parties opposite Reform is we believe in properly costing our plans. They've got £80 billion worth of unfunded commitments. Liz Truss 2.0.
Chris Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Blackpool's own boxing champion Brian Rose uses his gym to tackle knife crime, antisocial behaviour and give young people a safe space, demonstrating the significant impact of amateur gyms. Thousands of these amateur gyms up and down the country operate on a shoestring and can't afford to keep the lights on, reliant on brilliant charities like Maverick All-Stars, Empire's Fighting Chance and Matchroom in the Community. Would the Prime Minister join me in thanking these charities, praising the volunteers in these gyms, and will he throw a haymaker behind these gyms, giving them the knockout support they need to continue their vital work?
Can I thank him? He's a great champion for how amateur boxing gyms can transform both physical and mental health and confidence in young people. And the time, I have to say, given by selfless volunteers is inspiring, and we should thank them for it. England Boxing are investing £9 million in the sport, and GB Boxing will also receive more than £12 million during the next Olympic Games cycle. And I know my honourable friend will be looking forward to Liverpool hosting the inaugural World Boxing Championship, I think in September.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since July, health services in my constituency have got worse. The Chase Hospital may close, in Borden the promised health hub has not arrived, and in Haslemere this week we've learnt that inpatient wards are being closed because of a lack of GP cover. The Prime Minister promised hundreds of more GPs. Could he possibly send one or two of them to Farnham and Borden?
Mr. Speaker, I remind myself they left the NHS on its knees. The last Labour government brought the waiting list down to record lows. They drove them up to record highs. The last Labour government had the highest possible confidence in the NHS. They dragged it down to the lowest ever levels. Because of the money that we're putting in, we've done 3 million extra appointments in the first year of a Labour government. That's the difference Labour makes in power.
For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, what are the main issues of the day at the Prime Minister's questions?
Well, we had kind of the tail end of Prime Minister's questions there, but at the top you had Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch facing off as usual. Winter fuel payments was really high on the agenda. Like an hour before Prime Minister's questions, we had an announcement that more winter fuel payments will go to more pensioners this year. Now, this was a controversial decision by the Labour government to remove those payments. It's basically a top-up that the state gives you to be able to meet the cost of fuel during the winter when consumption is higher. And lots of pensioners had that winter fuel payment taken away.
And now this year, lots of pensioners will have it given back. Now, Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives and the opposition, said that Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, should apologise for taking away those payments in the first place, and also pushed him for an answer on how many millions of pensioners would receive that payment this year. It's an answer that he couldn't give. She also asked him about the two-child benefit cap. Will that be kept by the Labour government? Again, it was an answer that Sir Keir Starmer, couldn't give. He did talk about the Labour government being a government that wants to drive down child poverty, but couldn't confirm if the government will keep the two-child cap on state benefits that people get. There was also a question on Gaza, which I think is very pertinent, because there is a huge pro-Palestinian protest going on behind me. You might be able to see all around the Houses of Parliament. There are literally hundreds of people with Palestinian flags supporting the Palestinians in Gaza and what they are going through. There was a question about Gaza. It was, when will the UK government hold the Israeli government to account for the actions they have taken over the course of this war? Sir Keir Starmer said Israel's actions over the past few weeks have been appalling.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Afia, for that update.